G'day everyone, and welcome to the Video Confidence Connect with your host, me, Zoe, the Video Confidence Coach. Thank you so much for your patience this morning. If you are watching live, we've had a couple of technical difficulties this morning with the internet. Thank you, iiNet. So if I cut out for any reason, do not worry. I'm going to do my best to get back on board as soon as I possibly can, and I'll be here for you, waiting and answer your questions in the comments. So welcome everyone to today's live stream. I have an actual list of things to actually talk about today in front of me and instructions, surprisingly that. Before we get going, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians on the land on which I conduct my business. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and I stand with the traditional custodians on the lands in working towards a more equal future. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people continue to face discrimination due to our country's colonial past. I stand with them in their fight against injustice. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. And I thank you for joining me this morning at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And if you're watching on the Restream, hello, #Restream Squad. Feel free to comment. I'll make sure I respond to those in due course. So if you're watching, you are either watching on the YouTube or you're watching on the LinkedIn. I do provide a podcasted version of these live streams in smaller chunks, later provided in my weekly podcast, the Video Confidence Coachcast, of which I'm thinking about changing the name. Probably in 2025 we're going to change the name, but for now we're still working with the name because it's working for now. And for more information about what I'm doing, about where you can probably get a hold of me, or anything that you need regarding your personal brand, video confidence, or just getting into digital marketing for yourself or your small business, make sure you reach out to me at vcc.training. Oh, and if you've got any comments, questions, or thoughts, or ideas for topics that you would like us to go through a bit more fully, or maybe get on the live stream yourself and have a chat with me for free, feel free to comment in the sections below, provided either here or here, depending if you are on YouTube or on LinkedIn. So I'm just going to quickly check and make sure that the stream is going. I'm not seeing any big flashing red lights. I'm not getting any "we are cut off." So I think we are doing okay. I say that and then we're probably immediately cut off, but I digress. So today I decided to go a little bit classy because I was busy actually writing up today's presentation of the podcast topics I'd love to chat to you today about, because I had not an epiphany, but I had a bit of an interesting thought today, which we will go through in today's topics of conversation. Today we're going to be talking about not the 2025 digital marketing predictions, but 2030 digital marketing predictions. That is what I want to discuss in a podcast format, and also want to give you guys a chance to maybe think about any of the things that will happen in 5 years from now. How do you think you'll feel? Will you still be in business, or will you be starting a new business? I know it's very hard to predict the future, but what do you feel in your gut will happen? Feel free to comment below. And we'll also be talking about focusing on the here and now, focusing on only one social media platform, and the pros and cons of that, because I've got an awful lot of people over this past week, to be in fact, of just coming to me at their wits' end, honestly, just feeling so overwhelmed by social media in general. And I don't believe that's a you thing. That is a industry-wide, countrywide, global-wide thing where everyone has just been tired of essentially how social media is treating people who have personal brands, people who run businesses, people who run solo businesses, especially micro businesses as well. They're just getting sick of how these big tech giants, as they've always been, are treating them. So we're going to discuss that in today's podcast episodes. Yes, I think I was going to go nice and subtle today, as subtle as I can be. Keep that in mind. So if you are interested in joining me on a live stream, make sure to comment and check it out. So before we get on to what I would like to do today, and essentially what I use these Confidence Connects to discuss with you is there a chance for most people who like to have a chat with me and say, hey Zoe, it's very hard to get a hold of you. our schedules don't really line up. I do my best to be available for my clients, but I still need time to work on myself and my business, and do life things. So at this time, once a week, I give myself the opportunity to answer questions that people have had over the week, and then clip them down and then send it to them, either via email or LinkedIn or what have you, or take the opportunity to record some podcast episodes or whatever really is my content. The opportunity is that I'm live, I'm streaming for you, and I'm answering any of the questions that you have for me. What I will do is making sure that, again, apologies, I probably won't be doing these during the podcast recordings, but for those who are interested, I am just currently checking on just to make sure that the stream is playing nice, mainly because we've had a couple of issues with the stream, particularly today. So I'm making sure that that is just doing what it needs to do. And for those of you who stream as well, you understand the worry and confusion. And to be honest, I make sure I just keep all my notifications and everything on my other screen so that it's there for me. But ultimately, so what did we accomplish this week at Video Confidence Coach? And again, if you're not interested, feel free to skip 5 minutes ahead for those who are watching on the replay. We are now working with a business manager, so we've hired that on a weekly basis. May seem a bit strange for someone who is running a solo business, solo personal brand business like myself, but to be perfectly honest, when everything is resting on your shoulders, and I have discovered over the past couple of months that my motivating factor is people. I serve people, I work with people, and I work for people. Money is great, but it's not a very motivating factor for me, and I keep losing money because I'm not doing the things that need to be done in my business. So I've hired a business manager to have someone else both relying on me to make income so that I can pay them, of course, but also just have someone who's got my best interest in mind. And I've hired them on a weekly basis, and it's hopefully going forward, this should be great for me. And so over the next couple of months and leading into 2025, you will be seeing a lot of me, not just here, but definitely around the digital space. This week we have attended a couple of networking events. We attended the Geelong Chamber After 5 at the Geelong Gallery. Hella noisy. So the event is a beautiful space. The gallery, if you've ever been to Geelong, is right next to what we like to call the Death Star. It is a library that is a very circular shape and is very futuristic. And it is a beautiful gallery. The problem is it is not designed for talky events. And it's a gallery, so it's got hard wooden floors, hard surfaces all around, and echoey as hell. So, again, I'm sure I've been having a couple of chats with some of their staff about they're wanting to get more people into the gallery and host more events. We might need to invest in some sound dampening, just a little bit, just to take the edge off. But if I saw you at the Geelong Chamber event on Tuesday, feel free to reach out to me either in the comments or via my email, g'day, so GDAY, at vcc.training. I'll also be reaching out to the people that I had a chat with, so do not worry. I just haven't had a chance to this week because it has been a very hectic week, but I'll definitely catch up to you then. I also went to a networking event yesterday morning with the One Roof Women's Networking Collective. So One Roof is something that I've been trying out and having a look at to see how it is. So it's predominantly based in Melbourne, but they do have some pockets in Sydney, and now they've got at least 10 members in Geelong as well. It is a business women's and non-binary folk networking group based out of Melbourne, but is branching out into more regional areas. They have very extensive online opportunities. They have regular check-ins and power-up meetings, which, as you can see, I hired a business manager, so I kind of need that as well. And it was nice to finally meet some people because we did run into early in this year. There was a couple of conflicts, and I was waiting at a cafe for an hour that no one turned up in. And it wasn't anyone's fault, I want to stress. It was just a bit of miscommunication and trying to organize things while there were very heavy transitions going on within the company. So don't worry, things happened, we're here. Also, for the Geelong Podcasters, for any of you who are members of the Geelong Podcasters group that we run, we did have an event scheduled for today from 1 to 3 p.m. and unfortunately I've had to cancel due to a family emergency, but that will be happening in this afternoon. So my apologies for cancelling that and cancelling so late. We're working out timelines and everything. So after this live stream today, I'm going to pop off and going to get started on that. So do not worry, we're going to be gearing up for November. So on November the looking at my calendar so I do not get it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. So November the 22nd, we are hosting our last and final, so we're going to host our final get-together, our in-person get-together for the Geelong podcasters for the year. And next year we might be looking into more virtual meetups or maybe more in-person meetups in maybe a more friendlier time, maybe a Saturday morning or something along those lines that can work a little bit more flexibly with the people that we have available to us. And that will be starting in the new year. And again, if you're interested in having your voice heard and casting your vote on when you would like those to be, make sure you check out the Facebook group, the LinkedIn group, and check your emails, because I will be sending you emails. So that one will be happening on the 22nd of November, 2024. So moving on to the next things, and I promise we will get to the podcast episodes for today. The podcasts themselves, both my podcasts, both the Geelong Podcasters podcast, as you can imagine, the podcasting group has a podcast. It's about a 5-minute weekly podcast about podcasting tips and tricks, surveys, knowledge, all that good stuff. And I'm actually going to be recording a fair few episodes today, so you'll be listening to those, as well as the Video Confidence Coach cast that we will be recording podcasts later on in this live stream. So those two are going to be, instead of coming out on Fridays, personally, I was getting quite stressed because I was batching all the stuff to make sure it was ready for you to be able to consume, to listen, to watch when you were ready on a Friday, and it just wasn't getting done. I'm sorry. And then there was a couple of times where like I missed a week and then I got back on it and then I missed a week again. So to make sure that I am actively getting this ready for you and not just leaving you behind is my stress, I have now moved my release dates for both podcasts for Sundays. And I've had a couple of people question that. I just want to stress to everyone that the reason that I moved my podcast to Sundays is because it will be ready for you on Monday morning if you're listening to it in a business mindset, like you want to get on to the business mindset. And also, most of the people, whenever I'm looking at my analytics for downloads, no matter when I release it, and because I work with podcasting clients and I've worked with a couple of different, facets of life when it comes to my own particular podcasts, people download on a Sunday anyway. So I'm just thinking that I'm going to start off with a Sunday, and because it's my own work, I can flexibly move it around to meet the needs of you and you watching and listening to me now. So we can always move that to like a Tuesday or whatever day works. But the point is that the Friday was not working, and it meant that I was not giving you what I promised. And it just wasn't working for me. I was stressing. I was spending my Thursdays, which are already jam-packed as it is, trying to get it out by the Friday, and it just wasn't working. So we're going to spend Fridays, which is the day that I usually spend on making sure that I get my stuff in my business sorted out, like the podcasts, which are available to download on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all of the other platforms. I usually get those ready, but now we're going to be ready for Sunday, and it will be continually until Sunday, until further notice, until I find a better time that works analytically. And I want to stress, for those who may be podcasters themselves, just because someone downloads on a Sunday does not automatically mean that they're going to be listening on a Sunday. I'm fully aware of that. But downloads is what we've got to work with when it comes to podcasting. And as long as people are listening to the podcast and finding it useful and helpful in their business and their personal brands, that's what matters. I'm going to do it anyway. And final thing before we have off, so I apologize, this has been longer than 5 minutes because I have been rambling on a bit this morning. We have been going well in our entrepreneur course. So we're currently doing what's it called? I think it's technically a Cert 4 in entrepreneurship and new business, technically. But I'm also doing other modules of other courses as well. So by the end of it, I'm sure I'll have a name. Once I've actually finished everything, I will have a name, and I'm due to finish it in July of next year. So pray for me. Academics is not my strong suit, but I think we are doing okay. So I think we're doing all right. So that is it for what we have done at the Video Confidence Coach. Hopefully you have found that engaging and interesting. We want to let you know that we are going to be having the website live by November of this year. Thank you for your patience. I'm not very good when it comes to work that involves my own business, but when it comes to my client stuff, work as fast as I can, work as consistently as I can, get it out on time. But I'm my own client, and I can get away with stuff because it's me. So if you're coming across that yourself in your business or in your solo or micro business, maybe either get a friend or a family member, or maybe even hiring someone who is maybe training to be a business manager. Just get them on the side, get them once a week, and just have someone else to rely on. Or better yet, find your motivating factors, because that's what's helped me over the past, honestly, 3 months, is figuring out what in relation to my business motivates me. Now, apologies, I'm going to pull this out for a little bit, and I'm going to remind, because I've had a couple of questions about that this week at networking events and a couple of mentoring sessions. What I mean by that is there are plenty of things that can motivate you, very closely linked to your values, to be perfectly honest. And this is not your business. This is you as the person in the business, working in the business. So what I mean by this is over your lifetime, and say, for example, when I was younger, I was very food and money hungry. So I was very motivated by money, which equaled food. Because I very much had to survive and fend for myself for a very large part of growing up. So for food, money meant food. Therefore, I was very focused on money and getting the bag, getting the money, doing what I need to get money, go. Like that was my focus because I needed to survive. I needed to eat. And now as I've gotten to a stage of life where I'm honestly healthier, better, and slightly more mentally stable, not entirely, but slightly better. Now my motivations on what actually motivates me to get things done has changed. So I've moved from purely food and money. Food does help. But because now I'm in a position where I work from home, whenever I'm hungry, I don't need to sit in that discomfort of hunger. I can just go get food, go cook food. I can just get it. So that motivation is no longer ever present in that focus, that line of focus for me. What I have found for my situation is that I need people. I need people to motivate me. And I'm not saying this to have a coach or someone like literally physically behind me pointing at my computer going, do this, Zoe. What I'm saying is having someone that, and this may sound quite childish, having someone say they will be disappointed in me if I don't do the work. Having a business associate or friend or co-worker saying they will be disappointed in me if I don't get this thing done that I said I would get done is somehow motivating me more than money, more than food, more than the pressures of like work-life balance. So I'm going to tell you now. So what I'm going to quickly do, if it's all right with you, is I'm going to quickly just Google motivating factors. So just quickly have a quick squiz at motivating factors. Oh, you're very bright. So apologies, I'm going to look very pale in the face because no one knows what dark mode is. And I do have an extension for that. I just can't get it right now. So there's, so 2 types of motivation are both intrinsic and extrinsic. So I'm going to move you over here because you're annoying me. And I'm sure that looks great visually. But yes. So follow me on this tangent. I promise I will get to the podcast episodes that are due today. And if not, I will just record one. You can sue me later. With motivation, and as I've been discussing, the types of, they're intrinsic and extrinsic. So as you can imagine, internal and external. Intrinsic motivation is incisive of something that you do based on the interest and activity with no external factors. So something that is from within you, where extrinsic is motivation that occurs from external rewards, such as money, influence on your behavior, and that influence your behavior to then motivate you to do those things. And as I've been discussing with my business manager this week, it's not necessarily motivation for me that is the problem, because I wouldn't be running a business if motivation was my factor. For me, the problem that I have is discipline when it comes to things that ultimately end on me. Yes, I could spend more time in my business, or I could just go sleep. I could spend more time, following up leads and following up, these type of things that will, boost my business, help me get more money, help me grow my network, help more people. But those people don't exist. And that's the problem that I've been having, is that, yes, I can do these motivating factors for the people out there that definitely need my help. But because they're not in my line of sight, because they're not in my focus, and because I maybe have met them, but I don't know if they need me yet, and I don't know if I need them yet as clients, there's this nebulous feeling of like this black void of, sure, I can help them, but I don't know who they are, or I don't know how they are. Now, I'm not saying this as someone who is in the marketing, especially digital marketing fields, where I highly recommend that you have a client avatar. This is, again, someone who you work with, or someone you want to have as your client, or someone you currently have at your client and you want to get more people like them. I'm not saying that I don't know who my client or my target market is. I definitely know who my target market is. It's just doing the energy and work that is around that to make sure that it's clear that they know who I am, that they know what I do, and they know how I can help solve their problems. And that requires time, dedication, energy, and money to be able to achieve. Now, of course, over the however long I've been doing business for, I'm almost 30, and I've been doing it since I was 14. So around 15 years so far. And yes, I have lots of people. Like I network twice a week on minimum. I like people. And when it comes to the clients and leads that I'm working with, I'm very motivated, highly motivated even, to be able to serve them, to get them the solution that they need and give them an outcome that they deserve. But when it comes to working within my own business, setting up my website, setting up my email lists, making sure that I can save myself time and energy from doing drudgeon admin tasks that can easily be automated. All of these things that are going to then help me save energy, time, and money to then give myself more opportunity to help people feels like a very nebulous thread that is very clear, and it is a very broken down focus. But I'm also finding that it's still quite nebulous for me. So the reason that I bring in motivations is because over these 3 months, I've had to really sit down and focus in on myself of what is something that will mean that I get the work that I know will support me, that will serve me and my clients. What is going to help me do that? So as I bring up my sheet again, so there are plenty of things that can help you motivate. So there is tasks or activities that align with your larger goals. As you can probably imagine, running a small business and helping and serving people in marketing and coaching is my intrinsic goal, but there's a lot of barriers in front of that. Creating history, again, that's leaving a legacy. For a lot of people, leaving a legacy is really important to them in their business. It's not for me, unfortunately, when it comes to that. My legacy is like, when I die, I die. I don't really care. Yes, like my family will care. But when it comes to when I'm helping people in the moment. I'm helping people protect their business. I'm helping people protect their brand. I'm helping people do what they need to do in the moment for the long term. I don't need to worry about leaving a legacy of myself, for example, and that's not exactly a motivating factor for me. For example, if I pass away and these stuff and like my live streams and my podcasts are still on the internet, and they help people, awesome, great. That's a legacy that is great, but I'm going to be dead, so I don't care. So in regards to a motivating factor, that is not something that can help me, again, get to that point of actually doing what I need to do. As I said, not just for myself, but for my business. So meeting a deadline, having a time frame can very much help people be able to say, hey, I want to achieve this. Here is a deadline. I'm going to push to meet that deadline. If it is realistic or not is another question entirely. But for some people, that is what is a good motivating factor and almost a sole motivating factor for them. For me, a deadline is very useful when I'm working with clients. Again, it's that human element. For me and the way that I work, having that human element in front of me means that the deadline is real. I'm not just making it up because I want to achieve this for a nebulous person that doesn't exist. And I want to stress here that every time I'm saying me here, I'm saying me and my business, this is for anyone who is human-centric. This is for anyone who runs a personal brand, a small business, a micro business, where you are people motivated. You want to see people succeed. You want your clients and your leads, and even people who aren't working with you. You just want to be able to spread that positivity and love, essentially, for them to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. You want to help people succeed. And that is very consistent in what you do. So when I'm saying me here, I'm saying if you resonate with everything that I've discussed so far, you and I are on the same page. And if you are not, that is okay. It is okay to be motivated by money. It is okay to be motivated by keeping your employees housed, fed, and living their beautiful lives. If that's what motivates you, awesome. It's a motivating factor. It's something that you would need to think about. If deadlines are the thing that is keeping you going, then keep doing it, if that works for you. But if you're in a situation like me, and especially over these past couple of years, regarding the state of the world and business in general, having that motivating factor that is not solely reliant on my clients is something that I've had to investigate and find out. And the reason that I'm reading right now off a webpage is because all of this feels intrinsic to me now. I don't exactly have all of this written down. I do, I just don't want to find it right now because this is a spur of the moment. This is a podcast episode that I've done spur of the moment that I didn't exactly plan to record. But here we are. So as we continue going down this list, there is like being able to speak. I think this is because this current list is from Indeed. Wanting to be the best, that's a pretty motivating factor if you want to be the top dog, if you want to be on top of your game in front of everyone. Personally for me, again, there's no real human element for me on that front. Sure, if I'm like the best in whatever category I'm in, awesome. But am I helping people with that? Sure, that's a more motivating factor for me in the work that I do. Having clear expectations. Again, we're falling into the employee route. Receiving recognition. Now, this may seem a bit strange, but I think that's kind of one of the motivating factors for me, is having someone, not me, but someone outside of me, recognize the good work that I've done and, praise and gratitude. Oh, they feel so stupid to say out loud. Oh, I know. And I'm saying this, and not as a negative, but I'm saying that I think that's what it is, that I hate to say out of this entire list, that receiving recognition, and again, not for the accomplishments that I've made, the leadership, the authority in the space. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is recognition from my clients at the end or even during a process, or even during the hard slugs of a project, where they turn to me and they recognize that, Zoe, this crap is hard. Thank you for being here with me. I have received that numerous times throughout my business and throughout my life. And I don't necessarily strive for that. So if you're one of my clients, do not worry. That's not what I'm not needing you to give me praise immediately. I'm just saying it happens intrinsically because I put the human first. I put the person first. And it seems really stupid to say, but that's a motivating factor for me when it comes to the work that I do with myself, but also the work that I do with clients. To have someone be there, like recognize the good work that you're doing. Not necessarily in awards. I like awards, don't get me wrong, but I like the networking before and after the awards. Having a good gossip or chat with your pals as you're waiting for the awards to be read out. That is more where I'm at and where I enjoy being compared to like standing up on that stage and talking to everyone or talking to you while holding the award. Can it be a good doorstop? Awesome. The award will be useful. Can it just be something nice to put on a shelf? Sure. I don't have any shelves, but I'm sure I can get some. Somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where. But that type of recognition, especially from clients, but also people who genuinely need my help. And if you are like that yourself, being able to be recognized by the people that you genuinely help is going to be a good motivating factor for you. I just hate how I've realized that now while I'm recording a podcast. Damn. Um, other people on the list are helping others, which again, very much intrinsically related to serving people. Gaining power and fame, again, doesn't really resonate with my type of person. But if this resonates with you, that is fine. Does it getting notoriety and fame really important to you? And everything that comes with, both negative and positive? Awesome. Beautiful. You found something that motivates you and hopefully fulfilling your passion at the end of the day. There is also the last 6 ones I'm just going to mention off right quick, right here, is overcoming opposition. Spite is a surprisingly good motivator. I have found spite to be quite useful in my personal life, not necessarily in my business life, because I found that when it comes to spite in a business context, it's very good for the short-term goal stuff, not the long-term vision or goal. But hey, for some people, spite can be, or holding a grudge, can be a very long-term thing and very powerful and ongoing and a fruitful endeavor for you. Just keep in mind that running your entire life on spite may not be healthy for your mental health or your spiritual health. Just speaking from experience. So when it comes to spite, if you want to get something like short done, or for example, a good example that's come recently is I worked with someone who essentially we were getting them on different types of awards and getting them to win awards because they were very good at what they did. And essentially they did it out of spite because their previous business partner had just essentially left them in the lurch, left the country, went completely quiet, and left them with a lot of debt and a lot of other worse things. And they were able to turn the business around in under 18 months. So that's a year and a half. In under a year and a half, they went from a business that was absolutely failing, almost in the negative, very much in the red, to in the black financially. As well as, they managed to keep all their employees. They did a really good job in such a very short amount of time. And now that they were rewarded for their efforts, and then they won the awards, and they very much made it clear to me, hey, this was all out of spite to say, F you, ex-business partner, who they are still definitely seeking damages for, and you better be doing it, girl. Continue that. Get the law on them. And spite was a good motivating factor for them. But then after those 18 months, we had a chat like a month or two later, just a regular catch-up chat of like, hey, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve, the goal. Here is a month later, I was in the area, we had a chat. And they essentially said that they had spent them time doing the same thing of re-evaluating their life and themselves and internally finding their new motivating factors, because spite worked for them for those 18 months. It's not going to work for them now. So what can that do for them? Because again, these motivating factors that I'm talking about right now may have resonated with you then, but maybe they've gone tired and you need something else to spark your interest and joy, or spark your continuity with your business or your personal brand. And the other ones that are very useful, and I may or may not have stories for these, is being in control. Again, having that essence of control, not necessarily of like throttling employees or staff or your clients, but maybe having a sense of control and power in your business and the situation at hand. Proving others wrong, again, a little bit of the spite thing, but could be a very useful motivating factor, especially when it comes to areas of misogyny, patriarchy, doing patriarchy things. Pretty much when it comes to essence of people being shitty and proving them wrong is a very nice feeling. I must say that from context and long term. Creating change is also a very good motivating factor for long-term change that my clients will see. Creating change for them is definitely a motivating factor for me. Feeling like you belong is definitely another one, especially when you're working into a group or a club or what have you. And then developing in your career, I'd say, is much lower in regards to the motivating factors for you. And that was just a quick list that I found online. I quickly Googled like motivating factors and then had a list there for you. But the reason that I've done this impromptu podcast episode now is I wanted to just outline for you that thinking and actually spending time either meditating, thinking maybe even running some through some podcasts or meditations, talking about the different options about your motivating factors. Again, not motivation, motivating factors for yourself when it comes to running your business and the work that you do in your business. Not, again, I apologize. I think I keep getting those two confused, because when I think in my business, as in I'm working in my business, on my business, as opposed to in my business for my clients. Do you get what I mean? I apologize if I have confused you at any point in this podcast episode, confusing that. So the idea is that you work on your business, as in you are working on the background and the logistics, processes, branding, and marketing, and all these things that require you as the person who owns and operates the business to do the work. Then there is working in your business to work with your clients, with your leads, with suppliers, what have you. You are working in the business, doing the day-to-day, the projects, the processes, whatever that is. And I apologize if I have confused you at all during this podcast episode. Again, this impromptu podcast episode, because in my head, I keep thinking that working in my business is like working in the business, like doing what I can to perfect processes and get everything ready, what I can do to make the process as easy as possible for my client's eventual result. When working with my clients is how the terminology that I use, because there is a very big difference, because I think working on your business is a very clear, easy distinction. Again, it's one word, on, in. There's a very clear delineation there, and on paper it makes sense. But when it comes to the way that I speak and the way that I present, it's just not clicking as well as it should. So if you are someone who believes in that on philosophy regarding your business, I totally understand. Do not worry. I apologize if I've confused you today. But when it comes to those motivating factors, thinking out, even researching what options are available out there and seeing which ones resonate with you. As I've discussed throughout this podcast episode, that the options that we've gone through is that they actually have felt like, They actually have felt very, all working with each other. But there were very much some which didn't resonate with me at all, and some which very heavily resonated with me. And I will be writing those down, very much so. I'll be writing those down and reviewing them on a weekly basis. For those who are in their business, I highly recommend taking 20 minutes of, your week. And yes, you may be stressed, I understand. But taking 20 minutes of your week just to review what you've done, what you've accomplished, and where you want to go. Just 20 minutes, maybe even half an hour if you feel like you need to block out specific chunks of time. And those 30 minutes a week, I call it my weekly review. I have a checklist that I go through, and if you want to, feel free to check out the website for that. And if you need, I can always do a podcast episode on it for you. Or a video, if that's probably a little bit more reasonable to do. The weekly review is something that I do on a weekly basis that helps me I review my calendar, everyone that I've connected with, everyone that I've worked with that week. And it allows me just to get a lay of the land of, hey, have I forgotten anything? Put that into to-do lists. Have I thought about something a bit more? Okay, put that in a list. Like, get it out of my head, put it in the list to be dealt with. And then for say half of that time looking in the past, and then the other half of that session looking into the future. What am I doing over the next 2 weeks? What do I need to accomplish over those next 2 weeks? What are my goals? Okay, do I need to schedule some times to complete those things? Okay, let's actually put those in the calendar. Let's actually get them out of our head into something, be it a system that we've already created, or just writing it down so we do not forget. Again, you're taking that time to review, and you're not just flying by the seat of your pants and letting the business that you are the figurehead for, you are the personal brand for, but do not let your business be the one controlling you. You should be the one in control of your business. And sometimes it can be really hard to take control of those reins and get that business back on board. But if you don't, maybe it may succeed, but there's a very high chance that it won't, because you are not in control. So thank you so much for on that wild ride of an impromptu podcast. I did not have any notes, so I apologize if it didn't make that much sense. make sure you find your motivating factor, and I will look forward to seeing you on the next podcast here on the Video Confidence Coachcast. G'day and welcome to the Video Confidence Coachcast. I should have technically led in with a question, so let's do that before I forget. 2025 is right around the corner, but instead of thinking, oh, what is 2025 going to be like for digital marketing, or what changes are going to happen next year, let's think 5 years ahead to 2030. Let's think of some 2030 digital marketing predictions. And then we cut into the title screen, which may or may not happen. So if I apologize if I haven't come up with one yet, Zoe will just put something here. Done. So as I said in the opener, we are going to be discussing 3 top digital marketing predictions of myself, the Video Confidence Coach, here in November, December, whenever I release this, in 2024. So in 3 years, it's going to be, sorry, not 3 years, 5 years, it's going to be 2029, and it's going to be right around the corner for 2030. There are so many things with that particular year or number. There's a lot of really big changes in the world that are due to happen around 2030, and there's a lot of things that hopefully by then will have changed in my life, and hopefully yours too, that will impact all of us. But today I wanted to discuss a couple of things or trends that I've been seeing over the past couple of years, and I would love, hopefully, that I can look back around 2029 or 2030 and look back at these predictions and see how well I could predict them. And if I have not predicted them well, please, future Zoe, be kind. I don't know. I don't know if we did well or not. But the 3 things that I want to predict, and of course, as all predictions are, these are based on my own observations and my own thoughts, and a couple of them are fairly wide and loose as well, so do not worry if they're not as concrete as I would like them to be. They are for the episode today. The predictions themselves will be the rise of internet privacy and the ubiquity of siloed forums and private groups, the human factor first, the MLLs, AI, will be every day and everywhere. So it will become more ubiquitous within digital marketing spaces, as it already is now, but even more so. And AI art will become passé and tired. I already feel like this is the case, but I digress. I will go into it more in today's podcast episode. And the third thing that will definitely affect digital marketing predictions, but this is pretty much a worldwide thing, to be perfectly honest. Wind and solar power will become a standard when purchasing, and it's not just a power, but it will be touching absolutely everything. And I will go into that later in today's podcast. So make sure you listen to actually everything that we have on today's episode. So going back to my first prediction regarding the rise of internet privacy and the ubiquity of siloed forums and private groups. So what does that mean, Zoe? So as you can imagine, over the past decade, there's been a lot of changes regarding internet. Internet pickup and usage has become a lot more prevalent around my area and also throughout the world. Of course, there are very large sections that are still not access or have consistent access to the internet, but to the point where governments are pushing anything and services through the internet most of the time, you can understand the ubiquity has become quite consistent. And hopefully that will mean that there will be more focus on making sure that the internet is on a decent standard for everyone, especially in Australia. Now, of course, I'm talking about Australia. and my region, my neck of the woods when I'm making these particular predictions. But the internet is worldwide. That's the thing. Everything is everywhere. And that is a bit of the problem. So the rise of internet privacy. Over the past 10 years, we've definitely seen a lot more of the negatives when it comes to putting your face online. This goes for people who are running personal brands and businesses like ourselves, as well as just the everyday person. And there has been a very large, and I think we'll continue to see a trend, a very large retreat of putting your face, your name, your interests, your likes publicly online. There will be more calls for internet privacy over this period of time. It's already happening now, but it's going to definitely be kicking off. And I think by 2030, it will become the norm. And I say this because even though I put my face out there and I put my name out there and I want to grow my personal brand, I still want the right to privacy. And I still want the right to not have random people show up at my house, or to not have my identity stolen, preferably. Realistically, what are you going to steal? Best of luck to you. So when it comes to that internet privacy, that trend will continue to grow, especially when it comes to the GDP, GDP. I've forgotten what it stands for, and I apologize. You will see it on screen when I edit it. GDP is essentially what is the European Union has been impacting heavily over the internet regarding marketing endeavors, including email marketing, but also any work that you do regarding marketing in the European Union. And in turn, as you can imagine, when a standard is set in something as large as Europe, most of the internet, or the global internet, kind of falls into place just kind of happenstancely, because there are so many people and so much power within the GDP, within the European Union itself. Therefore, that kind of trickles down when it comes to the internet's way of doing things. And those, over the past, realistically, 6 to 8 years, there's been a very big push when it comes to privacy. So there has been, ever since the internet was created, bigger players on the global scale have been collecting data, just constantly collecting data, servers and servers of data, they're just constantly collecting data. And for a while, most of us didn't know what that was for. Yes, it was to maybe make business decisions, possibly, but it wasn't exactly clear what this data was used for. And then the ubiquity of the next thing that we'll be talking about in the next topic we'll be talking about, the rise of multi-language learning models, MLLs. That's what the data is being used for. The data that they're collecting on us for over, I'd say in some places 20 years, but in places more 10 to 12. All that data is being now used to feed these chatbots and AIs that they can use to do whatever they need to do. And in turn, that has meant, back onto what we're talking about today, the specific subject, is that people are bringing back their data and bringing back their privacy because they know how much it's worth. They know how much their data and their knowledge about themselves and their habits is worth to these big companies. And therefore, that is no longer going to be freely given as well as it has been in the past. So internet privacy is going to become a much bigger aspect when it comes to online play and the work that you do online. And what I mean by the ubiquity of siloed forums and private groups is places like Facebook groups. Facebook, I think, is going a little bit faster downhill than they would like, which is why Threads exists now. But I digress. Places like Facebook groups, Discord, WhatsApp, Slack, Reddit, Mastodon, all of these platforms that have individual silos for groups around specific interests, specific political factions. All of these individual groups, that they've already existed, and they have always existed in the background of digital marketing efforts. Now over the next 5 years, I believe and predict that they are going to become more into the front of strategies, but also just how people get more information. I'd say a lot of people are on WhatsApp groups, are on Telegram groups, are people that they've met in real life, but also there's plenty of groups that people are online for better or for worse, usually worse, mind you, that are purely online. They've never met any of these people in real life. And these groups, I think, are going to become a lot more standard when it comes to digital marketing practices. People are going to be in these groups that are focusing on their interests and what they actually want to do. And we're going to become very forum reliant, like we were back in the earlier days of the internet. Because we did not have social media platforms that made everything accessible to everyone. We're going to close those doors back. Now, of course, we can't fully close them back because the cat's out of the bag. The piglet has run around. We're not getting them back in the bag. And definitely with the social media platforms, they're going to try and fight against this. But I think instinctively, there's going to be a lot more of the rise of those. When I say siloed forums, I mean forums of, yes, they probably will interact with other groups and other people, but they're going to be very not necessarily publicly available. You would have to request to join these groups. You would have to, make an account on these platforms, show some sort of credentials, be it, you've been on the platform for more than 2 weeks, or you've maybe got your name or some sort of factor that will allow you access to these groups and therefore access to these places where people are having the discussions that they are focusing on. And we're going to be moving away quite heavily, I think, over the next 5 years from performative socials and more to human connection. Now, of course, this is online and digitally based, so there's only so much human connection you can possibly have. But what that means by then is that there's just going to be a lot more focus on how a brand, which may have one person, which may have hundreds of people, reacts to cultural events. That's already happening now. But in these siloed environments, in these various environments where people may be, and I think selling will definitely take place. It's, the law of the internet, there's always going to be advertising. But it's going to be very different. The people are going to be using their employees a lot more. There's going to be a lot more of that human face in front of the work that they do. Yes, that already happens now, but it's going to be even more prevalent, again, in these siloed environments. And what does this mean for you and your business? As you can probably imagine, Zoe, what the hell does this even mean? So I think for those who are listening now, and maybe not in 2030, if it's 2030, you might be a little bit late by now, but if you're watching or listening in 2025, I think knowing your customer and having a customer avatar or a really clear idea will be crucial for both utilizing with tools such as AI and the MLLs of the world. Again, I will get to that in a second. But also having just a really clear idea of who the type of person you want to focus on. So when it comes to getting access to these siloed environments, you are doing the right thing, or at least have the right direction of the people who are interested in buying from you. Because again, these siloed environments are going to grow in the amount and the sizes of them. So in turn, you need to make sure that you're in the right groups to actually see and talk to people who are going to buy from you. That is why it's important to know your customer and get them to like you through these platforms. Having multi-channel marketing channels, both in digital and in person, is going to be crucial. Down here in the local sphere in Geelong, I have seen a much more bigger uptick in in-person marketing. We're talking flyers, brochures, magnets, business cards, all the even billboards. There is a company down here called Gawk, and throughout Victoria, by the way, who are doing digital billboards. Yes, digital billboards have always been there. Well, not always been there, but they've definitely grown over the past 20 years. And in turn, billboards are coming back with a vengeance. And in turn, that will mean that your ways of marketing your business will be split even more than they already are. So over these next couple of years, having a clear idea of who you're talking to will then definitely dictate those multi-channel marketing efforts that you're doing in both digital and in-person methods. building and leading groups is now going to be more important than ever. If you have a Facebook group that is dead in the water and you haven't done anything with, think about reviving it and think about an actual strategy that will get people back on board. Maybe moving to a different platform might be the right thing to do. And I just think over these next 5 years, that's going to be more important than ever. Having a group of dedicated people, not necessarily buying from you straight away, but to have that community there as this, as everything grows and moves towards this siloed forum way of the internet, I think is going to be very crucial over those next 5 years. And the last thing I'll mention on this particular topic is building your email lists. Building email lists will be very important. And it has always been, and especially over the past 5 years, I have been crying to people out to make sure you build your email lists. And it's going to be more important than ever over these next 5 years as people move away, and they already are. They're already moving away from these large social media platforms because of just the communities and the anger that it fosters. And as we do so, email marketing will become more important as one of those multi-marketing channels. So 2030 me, how did it go? Yay, nay? Did the world blow up? Let me know. Okay, so the other factors that I want to talk about today are so currently in the world, we collectively call multi-language learning, apps and tools as collectively as AI. Now, for those who may not know, it's not actually AI. It's not thinking for itself. It's just using a bunch of data, ones and zeros, to output an outcome that is in a text form, which for some tools then turns it into either a still picture or like 2 to 5 seconds worth of video. And that's where we get the uncanny video that's a bit weird. And the more data that they feed these tools, the better, and I use very big air quotes there, the better it will become. And I'm going to say that in 5 years, that these MLLs, as they're called now, I'm sure we'll come up with a catchier term probably within the next 5 years, Zoe, they will become everyday and everywhere. Because at the moment, they are definitely used, and in a lot of digital marketing, they are used. If you are running a business in 2025, you're probably using some sort of AI tool, or at least some AI assisted tool, at least in somewhere in your, in your supply chain, in the way that you create content, in the way that you market yourself, you're using AI at some point. This will become just an everyday thing. And I think this will become a lot more obvious to be able to spot just by looking at text when something has been generated using one of these tools. And I'll go on a little bit further what I mean by that. And the other thing that I want to predict is that AI art, so again, we're talking about tools that are using data scraped illegally off the internet from people without their permission, is the art style that it produces is going to become very passé and tired in the next 5 years. To be honest, as someone who is on the internet, I'm already over it. But in the next 5 years, it will become incredibly dated. Not just because these tools will, again, continue to be fed more data, but will also have different styles. Because the way, and I'll mention this now to my listeners and watchers, is that the images, specifically images, the video, it's not really quite there yet, but it will eventually get there. It also just doesn't know what consistency is, so there's that. Is that when you can tell that an image is AI, not necessarily just because looking at the fingers, because that will change over time, is seeing that the contrast points, so from the lightest to the darkest shade of the image, are white and black, like are very clearly, like there's no gray. Everything is very highly contrast and highly stylized because it's given to a computer. It's not given to a human at the end of the day who can see the many shades of gray, not 50, even more than that. And obviously, the more data that especially these large conglomerate capitalistic companies will continue to push into these, AI resource generated things, who are taking a lot of energy, by the way, they're going to produce the same thing because, again, they are just pixels. They are just a computer at the end of the day. You can also tell something is AI via the proportions, even if something is supposed to be regarding the different points of contrast, as I mentioned before, but also it's going to be quite obvious and it's going to be very passé. Because at the moment, a lot of older people that I work with don't mind AI. They think, oh, it's pretty. Oh, it's nice to look at. It's nice. It's going to become boring. It's going to become old fast. And human artists are still going to be needed. People who are cheap are still going to use AI at the end of the day. And I have played around with a couple of these tools, and we're still in the infancy in 2025. Obviously, it's been available to the public, air quotes there, since, thank you, internet, since 2022. It's been publicly available. And then it's just continually growing until now in 2025. And then by the time we hit 2030, I believe that it will become just very obviously in basic, and we'll want to see something new. We'll want to see new and innovative things that interest us, new styles, because of course we are humans. We want novelty, and AI is just the mashup, computer mashup of everything else. It is so boring. So that's going to become very passé over time. The things that I will predict by 2030 is that AI art controversies will continue to grow, will become even more plethora than they are now. As you can probably imagine, everyone's getting quite sick of them as they are, and they will continue to steal and grow. But with the rise of tools that can poison these databases and turn what a computer thinks is a cat into a shoe, this will definitely, taint the data, and there will be a lot more controversies revolving around that. Highly recommend you look into that if you want to artist yourself. Protect yourself. And you're putting your art online, I must say. And I think over time, especially by the time we hit 2030, people will become more intrinsically aware when an image, when text, when a video has been AI generated. And there's still going to be a fairly large, a fairly vocal minority, I should say, of people who are going to believe everything that they see. I don't think that's going to be everyone. And there are still going to be controversies. There's going to be even more. But hopefully by 2030, the world hasn't entirely broken in half by that mentality. We'll innately get to a point where we can watch a video and humanly discern a little bit of hey, I don't entirely trust this. We'll have tools by then to be able to run it through that and go, okay, is this AI or not, or is this human? Cool. We'll make a decision from there. And in turn, we will seek novelty a lot more than we already do. We won't like to deal with complacency as much when it comes to our digital marketing, and especially our creative, because if we've seen it before, AI can do it. I don't care. I want to see what a human can do. I also predict by 2030 that the government policies that will be in place will be at the point, hopefully, on a global scale, that will limit or refine training models. So again, the data that people are collecting and have been hoarding for years, that they put into these machines that then create the output, they will be limited and restricted due to governmental policies. And also, this also includes the copyright when it comes to AI training data and draining data sets. I believe that there will be some government policies regarding around that. I have no idea what they're going to be, but I can imagine they're going to be somewhat either loose or strict. Either way, it's never going to be the right thing to do. It's always going to be one extreme or the other. And yeah, just being able to get the government, and I'm not saying that the government's going to fix everything. It's probably going to ruin things, to be honest. And feel free to nod along if that is the case, Zoe. But just having something by the time we hit 2030. Or I could be completely wrong and the government doesn't do shit. There's also that. And then the last thing that I want to mention before I go into what this means now for people in 2025, is that we'll actually have the rise of actual AI, not just these predictive text from your phone that you can get just on steroids. I mean actual artificial intelligence that is going to be utilized probably, let's face it, within the military, because that's where the money is going, but then slowly trickling down to us. And from there, I would like to see that. Now, of course, it's terrifying, as you can imagine. Something that is apologies, my phone is going off. I forgot to put it on mute. That was very silly of me. Stop going off. Thank you. So, what I mean is that, so with the actual rise of artificial intelligence, that's an entire series on its own. But hopefully by 2030, we'll see the beginnings of that. I don't think we'll see a fully fledged thing, but we'll start to see the beginnings of that as the data is inputted and refined. From, again, these places that have a lot of data, because of course they have all the money. Now, for those of us who are in 2025, what can we do with this prediction and this knowledge, or possible future, in mind regarding MLLs, AI, and artificial intelligence? You can start learning the basics of prompt engineering. Not to be an entire job. I want to stress, for all of those companies that are hiring prompt engineers as a job, you are stupid. I say that now and in the future. Having your entire job be a prompt engineer is going to not be useful as a job. It's going to be a skill set of everyone's job. To be able to prompt a larger, bigger intelligence than you in a database that has either been created by a company that you're in, or maybe your own, to be able to have something that you can use to make sure you get what you want out of it, and in the least amount of energy used to get that prompt out that you want. That is something that's going to be, I think, a useful skill over the next 5 years. So look into, AI prompt engineering. You don't need to take a course, just brush up on a couple of skills. I highly recommend a couple of Jeff Su, so GEFFSU, who's on YouTube. He's got a lot of good stuff, and he has a basic video, I think it's like 10 minutes long, on prompt engineering, and I highly recommend that for yourself if you are interested in prompt engineering and, again, preparing for this 2030 future. The other thing that I'm going to mention for us that are in 2025 is playtesting your minimum viable products with computers and with your artificial intelligences before you move into real person testing and launching with other, clients or customers or other business owners. What I mean by this, now I may have just thrown a lot of words at you if you aren't unfamiliar with any of those terms, but essentially you're able to test your ideas, your unique ideas and products and services and what have you, with a computer, with an AI that can give you objective and feedback, and build up both your internal confidence, but also the confidence of your staff, or the confidence of what you're actually producing, and test it with a computer a lot more before launching it with humans and getting their feedback before eventually taking it to market. That's already what's kind of happening in the background now on a very small scale. That's going to become a lot larger as these data sets grow over time. And the reason that I mention that is because this will then very much dictate the type of products and services that are going to be coming out, because these larger companies are going to do this. They are going to test their ideas on these computers first before they start bringing it out to humans. So the computers are going to dictate whether something actually comes out or not. So now, of course, you can always test this. You can always change things as we grow. As an online community and in your digital marketing space. But just to have something, not a human, just something look over your work, even give you some pointers, not to fully change things, mind you, but just to give you some rounding of the edges, I think is actually going to be useful for us. When it starts dictating the entire final output, then that's not exactly what I would like. And there's going to be, of course, people who just want the easiest, cheapest way of getting something out there. They're going to use that. That's going to happen. But when it comes to actually putting something good out into the world, having that confidence that, the computer says, hey, I'm not going to blow up the sun with this idea. Okay, I can do this. And that will give you the confidence to then reach out to human beings, which are a lot more flexible. So moving on from AIs to the last point that I wanted to bring in to our podcast today. And this may seem very Zoe, and very nebulous, but this will impact your digital marketing in 2030. I guarantee it. And this thing is solar and wind power will become the standard when purchasing. And I don't mean just when it comes to power. I mean everything. So what I mean by this is that in digital marketing, you are a business who wants people to come in as leads, purchase either a product or a service, and then either stay as a subscription. Honestly, another prediction I have, Zoe, hopefully by now, subscription models will have succeeded, or at least only be used when it's necessary. Because I was definitely doing a lot of my initial training when I first started my business around subscription models, and they were very much pushed by a lot of the trainers and a lot of the people talking about business, is that you should get people on a subscription model. Like that's the goal. And then look here, 10 years later, it has become the goal and everyone hates it. So hopefully that has changed by 2030. Feel free to laugh at me. That's not the case, Zoe. But again, back to solar and wind power. Because of course, powering the internet, powering our computers, powering everything is really important. It's crucial. Governments are made and braked by this, especially in Australia. So when it comes to digital marketing and the work that you're going to do, as a business, you're going to need to be conscious of how your products, be them digital or physically, are made, how your services are conducted. Being more transparent than ever, I think, is going to become the norm when it comes to the work that you do, when it comes to digital marketing. And I'm not just focusing on like the actual power of it. I'm focusing on as consumers. So in this world, we are all consumers of something. I doubt that you have not consumed something today. And the world has become more conscious as consumers, and that will definitely grow by 2030 to the point where we will get to the point where everyone, not that you know, but it's easier to understand where a business comes from, where their supply chains, both physical and digital, because right now there's a lot of unclear understanding of where a lot of digital products come from, or the amount of time and effort it took, or the products or tools used to create the digital product. I believe that is actually going to become quite transparent by 2030. And if I'm wrong, feel free to laugh at me, Zoe. That by that point, we need to be able to be transparent about how things are created, what is created, and how much energy has been taken to create that product. Now, of course, I'm not expecting people to have like full-on meters of, like little gas meters or little meters that say, hey, it's taken this much power, or it's taken 3 days worth of power to create this tool for you, or what have you. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying to have a really transparent supply chain is what is going to happen. And again, both that we can already see that in the conscious consumer markets of physical products, especially with businesses that are really pushing the green agenda, be them actually helping the environment or not, you decide. That with that is going to then transfer into digital marketing and digital products as well. I think that is just inevitable. The people are going to be more conscious of where this information has been sourced from. Has it been sourced from AI? Has it been sourced from human beings that you're employed to? Has this, information, been taken legally or illegally from the data that you have collected on your customers? I think that's definitely going to be happening over the next 5 years, and that's going to become more important over time. And the things for those of us who are in 2025, the things that we need to think about when it comes to digital marketing and everything that I mentioned so far regarding solar and wind power or other alternative forms of power, as I've mentioned. There is a lot of wind and there's a lot of solar down here in Australia, so it's kind of what I'm focusing on. But of course, there are other alternative power options. What we can do in 2025 is invest in a transparent supply chain for both our digital and physical products and services, being able to clearly articulate and clearly market ourselves on those transparent values when it comes to supply chains. So being able to invest in those, like when you're making decisions, to be able to think of both the marketing potential of the decisions that you make to invest in certain areas of your supply chain, and actually if that can be used as a marketing opportunity for yourself. Because again, that will be used to then transparently showcase to people, hey, we are doing this because we, get our internet from a local supplier of internet down here in the Geelong region, pushing that green agenda, for example. Another example that I have is that, for example, producing either a digital product and you say, this digital product has been created from my mind and has taken and took me, 3 days of power to create, like something like that. So to be able to showcase, again, the tools, not necessarily the tools used, because of course people are allowed to have their anonymity when making products or services online, but that will become more transparent over time because it will just become part of the norm, I believe, in the way that you market yourself and your business in the digital space, because that's what we're talking about today. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about regarding this is making sure that in 2025 and beyond, over the next 5 years, is that you find alternatives to everything. I'm not just talking about your supply chains. I'm not just talking about, when it comes to decisions that you make regarding marketing your business. Make sure that for every single tool you use, you have at least one alternative. However you get your power, make sure you have alternatives that you can quite easily and quite quickly, like you've got their number, you've got it written down, you've got some sort of, when the shit hits the fan book, here, use this to find alternatives. Because I think that is what is going to be happening very effectively over the next 5 years, is that there are going to be major changes and major shakeups. And if people who are too slow to move are going to be heavily impacted. So making sure that you have those alternatives in all aspects of your business, or at least know of them, or in my case, have a list of whenever I come across something like, hey, this is kind of like the tool that I use, but it's cheaper, more efficient, and better. Put that on the list. Make sure to check it in a month. Okay, I'll do that. So again, finding alternatives, because even though something may be working now, it's not always going to be working. So having those alternatives in place. So those are the things that I would like to predict for 2020-30. Feel free, future Zoe, if I have done a great job or a bad job, feel free to let me know. The hopes that I have, so these are not exactly predictions, but like hopes that I would like when it comes to the digital marketing space, is that, and subsequently the things that will be impacting the digital marketing space over the next 5 years, I hope that more people are working from home, are having their life fit their work. Are having work fit their life and not life fit their work. Because hopefully over the next 5 years, a lot of those people who have that mentality, especially in the C-suite managers, sub-managers, regional managers of the world, are going to either retire or be close to retiring, and phasing out that mentality as Gen Z and the younger Gen and Gen Alpha possibly. And again, generations are economic terms. They are not fully describing of people. Just remember that. So we bring those in, and more of those people are in the workplace where what you do for work should not be your entire definement of you, and nor should it ever be. So that having more people work from home, I really hope is going to become the norm, which then will impact how people are consuming, the marketing that you are providing, again, in those silo channels, but also how people are just going to be consuming marketing in general. I think, and I hope there's going to be more stages and pieces of quiet for people to be able to think without being constantly bombarded with ads. I hope that. In turn of everything that I just mentioned before, I hope that flexible working hours will become the norm, especially for businesses and for companies where it's not life or death. You work in a, financial advisory firm, mate. Like, just chill, and be able to work flexibly around your life. Again, having work fit your life and not the other way around. The last thing that I would like to hope for by 2030 is that there are some and again, this is a really big hope I want to stress, is that there is some sort of plateau of growth when it comes to this constant need for capitalism. Well, what we're in is that this constant need for growth, constant need to cut. And that's the reason that this is my theory, is that the reason that we've had this public push of AI and scaring of people in their jobs is because these larger companies have cut all costs absolutely everywhere else. And they're starting to cut labor costs because that's the only thing that they can have control over to cut in regards to costs, which has interminably meant that things are not getting checked, things are becoming more unsafe, and the world is becoming less safer to be in because of these labor cuts and labor, there's constant need for growth, there's constant need for return, there's constant need for profit from your investment. And AI has been used both as a scare tactic to keep people on board, like, AI is going to take your job. And I'm not saying that war is unfair, I'm not saying that thought is unfounded. I can definitely understand where you're coming from. Over the next 5 years, that may definitely be the case. But AI is to take the grudge work, is to take the work that no one wants to do. Then people will need to be more skilled. And having, like, for example, I was talking a couple of months ago with a friend of mine who works in the plumbing industry, and they were worried about, robots taking their jobs. And I said, by the time that we retire, in 50 years from now, to be perfectly honest, that you're going to have maybe a robot helper who can do the heavy lifting and physical load work for you, but you're still going to need to use your brain because you're in the real world. They're computers. They don't know what they're doing. And over the next 5 years, I think that will definitely start coming into play. I don't think it's going to be into fruition, but over the next 5 years, that will come into play. And I believe that what I would love to see, and as I said, this is in the hope section of my predictions, is that there's going to be some plateau of growth, and there's going to be that human aspect coming through of just, we're okay. We don't constantly need to grow, right? We can just chill. I doubt that's going to happen. That's why it's a hope and not a prediction, Zoe. But when it comes to, and the tech bros just calming down for a second would be nice, to be perfectly honest. But when it comes to 2030, I look in 5 years from now with both immense fear and trepidation, but also hope. I hope that by the time we reach this point, 2030, that we will have done a lot better than we have. That the pandemic will be long behind us and we will be in a space of more prosperity, and things will change in digital marketing. There's no doubt about it. But to be able to have a more human-centric approach in the world is what I would like to see when it comes to digital marketing. So thank you for enjoying my little spiel, and I hope you enjoyed today's podcast episode. Like I said, in 5 years, I will check back in on myself and my notes, and we can definitely see how we went with our predictions. Yay, nay, feel free to give me your score, future Zoe. And in the meantime, I would love to hear from you. Make sure you comment below or you reach out to me on my website, vcc.training, where you can find more of these podcasts and everything else regarding the projects that we do at the Video Confidence Coach. Look forward to seeing you next week and wish you all the best with your plans for 2025 and 2030. Bye. So that was an impromptu podcast and a lot longer than I planned. Prediction podcast for both 2020. So I'm going to say 2025, but we're going to probably have it available by maybe late November, early December 2024. And then we're going to predict 2023 with that podcast. So thank you so much for those who are enjoying our much longer than usual episode of the Video Confidence Connect. I'm quite tired. I'm probably going to go have a nap, to be perfectly honest. But thank you so much for those who are watching live and who have stood by us during our technical difficulties. Thank you so much for dealing with the internet. But in the meantime, we are here. We'll make it happen. We can do this. So best of luck with the rest of your week. You will see me on the Video Confidence Connect here at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Friday. Feel free to reach out with any of your comments via email, via our social media posts when I do them, and via our website if you so choose, keeping in mind that we're updating it. I promise it's going to be good. I have my business manager on my ass. I promise it'll get it done. And I look forward to seeing you in the future. Bye.